Hi everyone, Avery here again. Today we're going to talk about adoptee voices. Listening to those directly impacted by adoption really is the best way to learn valuable content on how we can be better parents, how we can better support our children, and really to understand their life experience as they navigate through being an adopted person in North America, and especially if they are a transracial adoptee. We really want to highlight these voices. We want to pay attention to those that have been affected by adoption in the past and in their lives. It isn't just something that affects children. These adopted children grow up to be adults. Because of the deep importance of listening to adoptees' voices, I really wanted to highlight some of the main points that I have heard while listening. So today that's what I'm doing. I've picked up 10 of the biggest remarks that come from listening to adoptees' voices, those that tend to be repeated over and over again, those that tend to be life lessons based on both mistakes made by parents as well as things done well. And so you can really start to see themes showing up with these adopted kids as they grow into adults and what really allowed them to be whole, healthy, secure adults versus those that are still really struggling with where they came from. So, number one, always be honest. Of course, we're being honest to an age appropriate level, but we want to be honest. We don't want to say anything that is not true, or even that we do not know to be true. So we always want to be honest with our children, again, also while being age appropriate. But our number one goal here is to build trust. And so how can we build trust if we are not being honest? It's the number one way. And actually, I just recently watched a little video that Jennifer Garner did with her mother that was so sweet. And the way that they always say, I love you, is to say, I love you and I trust you. And that really impacted me. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing, because love is certainly important, but trust is invaluable. Trust is invaluable. And that's what we're trying to build in our children, is a reciprocal, trusting relationship. And from adoptees, that's the number one thing that they really appreciate and value or really resent from their parents, is if they weren't honest with them and if they held truths, or potentially even held the fact that they were adopted. We want to be really upfront and honest with our children so that they can embrace and love their whole story and then embrace and love their whole selves. Number two, stop the lucky narrative. So many people come up to adopted children, whether they are still children in adolescence or adults, and they want to let them know that they believe that they are lucky. Oh, you're so lucky to have been adopted. Oh, your fate could have been so much worse. But we don't know that. We do not know that to be true. And so, again, our children are not lucky because they're adopted. Our children needed to lose their birth families in order to get to a state of needing to be adopted. That's not very lucky. And it's very dismissive and can be seen as rude to put that onto someone else. Adoptees don't like it. And adoptive parents really should get out of the habit of that also. Most of them, now that I listen to their voices, they also don't want that narrative anymore. It's not the kids that are the lucky ones. If anything, it's us. Most of us really were longing for a family. And these children are becoming our children and allowing our dreams to come true. So aren't we the lucky ones? We don't just want to change this language for ourselves, although that's very important. Of course, we want to be cognizant of our language and what we are saying, but we also want to call out others. We want to let others know that it's inappropriate when they say something inappropriate to our children, around our children, or around other adopted people. We're at the time of the calling out, of the calling in, of when someone says something inappropriate in whatever realm. If we know better, we need to do better. Therefore, we need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable conversations and with just holding people accountable to the words that they're using in the kindest way possible. Okay, so number 3, we want to embrace their culture as a family. So of course we want to embrace their culture. That is huge. That's probably the biggest piece of advice that comes from adoptees, is that you hear that they would have liked some sort of cultural inclusion in their world. But then it breaks off. It's really individual choice. Some kids love going to cultural camp, some really don't. Some love learning their language, some don't. But an overarching message is to do things as a family, to not send your children off to do cultural events on their own, therefore othering and potentially segregating them even further. We want to do these events and these things as a family. And so if you're going to celebrate Diwali, you will do that as a family. You'll create crafts, and you'll possibly learn specific words maybe for the event, but you're going to fold that in so everyone's doing that together. That's same with music, arts, culture, food. Be sure to speak lovingly and often of your child's birth country if it's different than your own. And if we're able, we definitely want to take trips back to their home country. I know for myself, I'm hoping to do this at least every 5 years, so that they do have an ongoing connection and potential ritual that perhaps they can bring into their own adulthood of returning to their home country. All right, and rolling right from there, number 4 is having conversations about race and racism, especially if we're adopting transracially, but really at all, we really need to be having these conversations with our kids. It's a reality in the world that we live in. And so we need to prepare our kids and have them be informed, especially if they are people of color, and we are not. That's going to be a difference that they will notice and feel in their worlds, and that could separate the two of you if you're not willing to have those tough conversations, if you're not willing to be vulnerable enough to let your child know that they can come to you with those issues. They need to know that you're a safe place, that you'll hold that in a calm and confident manner, that you're not going to lose your and that you're going to support them. Also comes back to trust, right? We want our kids to know that they can have a conversation with us about anything. And we're going to be able to manage that. We can hold that for them, and we can have a kind, communicative conversation, age appropriate. This will let them know that we are there to support them in any hard thing that may happen to them in their lives, period. We are here to support them. We are here to be their number one ally and advocate. And so whatever person your child is, we need to advocate for that person. We need to make this as safe of a place for them to grow and thrive as possible. All right, and number 5 lesson from adoptees is to be trauma informed. All adoptees have trauma. We are learning about that on this channel. We will continue to. But as you are beginning to learn, all adoptees have trauma, and so their parents being trauma informed, their schools, their medical staff, their communities, as much as possible. With adopted people, we need to look at what their behaviors are showing us. We need to face them at their developmental age, not their chronological one. To see the human in front of us, to be informed about what they've been through, and to support and love them through that. It's really important. It's really important from a parental perspective, but it really is important to these kids as they grow into adults. The more trauma informed that the people around them are, the more likely that they are able to grow into healthy, secure adults. So we're looking at what their behaviors are telling us about how they're feeling and how we can help them. And we are telling them over and over and over and over again how much we love them, that this is a lifelong relationship, love and commitment, and that they are safe. All right, number 6, language again. So we want to be sure that we are watching our language and being mindful of the messages that we're sending our children by the words that we use. As described in the Flip the Script video, which I will have linked in the description, children who are young have a magical, malleable thinking. They are learning their model of the world and their inner beliefs based on their experiences during this time. There are even discrete ways that this can happen. By telling your adoptive child that their birth mother loved them so much that she gave them away, you're actually inherently telling them that love equals leaving. We need to be careful of the language that we're using. Also, if you came to adoption through infertility, don't share this with your children. Maybe once they're older and have a better concept of fertility and self-confidence and awareness, but when they're young, they don't need to know that. It's not beneficial to them. And in fact, it may just show them unwittingly, you may be telling them that they are second place, second best, second choice. We want our children to believe that they are number one to us in all ways. And so share that information later if you must. We want our children to know that they are number one to us always. And so, again, being honest, but age appropriate. It's okay to share that information once they're an adult or once they've gone through their own fertility, perhaps, or when they ask a question, when they're old enough that they maybe ask a question. All right, number 7, real parents. Teach others not to use this language. It's harmful. There's no such thing like what is a real parent. It's a very interesting linguistic that the English language has come up with. But really, we're all real parents. And so part of it will be educating your children on how they can respond when other people do this, but we'll do that through modeling. And so if someone uses that type of language in front of us, in front of our children, we will correct them. And we need to be comfortable with doing that. You need to be solid inside of yourself enough and confident in being an ally for your child so that if someone were to say something inappropriate, you can kindly redirect. So again, for real parents, obviously, whether you are a birth parent, an adoptive parent, or anything in between, you are real. You have an affect on this child's life in a parental fashion. We are all part of their family. We all need to be recognized and appreciated for our role in it. They have birth parents. That's okay. Figure out the language that you're going to use to talk about birth or bio parents, natural parents. I prefer birth. It's just what comes out of my mouth the easiest, and that's likely what I'll use. Now, that's not to say that if I learn something about that language that puts it into an unacceptable camp, especially if it were to come from adoptees, I'd adjust. But for now, I like birth parents. Educate folks not to use terms like real parents. Both adoptive and birth parents are real. They are real family members. Teach others to be mindful and respectful. All right, number 8, no jokes about adoption. Kind of seems like it should go without saying. And I mean, there are exceptions to every rule. So perhaps you have a child who is fiery about their adoption and they reach a stage where they are a little comedic storm about it. But when it comes to others and when it comes to setting precedents on what's acceptable around our children, we want to let others know that jokes about adoption just are not funny. So we don't want to make them ourselves. We don't want to tolerate them from others. We don't want to make light of things in response. We want to do a gentle calling out, again, being our child's ally. All right, number 9, we want to be cautious of anniversaries and celebrations. Events like birthdays that are generally seen as positive and happy for their others in society may be very difficult on an adoptee. These types of events are always loaded with the potential of a different world or thoughts of your birth family. They can be joyous and they can also be sad. They can be those two things simultaneously, and that can be hard for an adoptee to manage. So just be cautious of that. Most don't want to have a gotcha day. They don't want to celebrate that. That day may have been good for you as parents. It may have been terrifying for them as children. We want to recognize that. We want to pay attention to what our kids want in their celebrations and focus on that. And we always want to pay homage to those birth parents. Even if it's uncomfortable for our children, in a gentle, kind way, we need to let them know that we recognize and appreciate those humans that are out there or were out there and the gift that they provided us. And of course, Mother's Day and Father's Day, celebrating but paying homage. I think it's important to do both. It will be important for us to do both throughout our children's lives. They have two sets of parents that they will be thinking of at every one of these occasions. How are you going to let them know that you love their birth parents so that they can be free to love their birth parents? And maybe love is a strong word, maybe it's gratitude. But we want to have good feelings towards those people. Good, positive, heartwarming feelings towards those people. We don't know their details that led them to have to give their child up for adoption or have their child removed from them. We want to save our judgment and express our gratitude. All right, number 10, the final lesson from Adoptees Voices Directly. Educate yourself and then educate yourself some more. We need to keep educating ourselves, keep working on our personal biases. We all have them. We have inherent bias within us. Our cells will respond to seeing certain images or certain bodies. That is a fact. It's a scientific fact. And so as adoptive parents, we want to keep challenging those, recognizing that we are humans that are fallible, and we are just going to continue to try and to grow and to do better for ourselves, for our children, and for the society that we live in. It's needed. We want to keep educating ourselves and keep listening to adoptee stories, especially from humans that are in similar situations to our own children. As Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better. So let's keep knowing better. All right, so that's the 10 lessons from Adoptee Voices for today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, remember to like and subscribe to get all of the content upcoming. There will be more. I'm just getting started. I've linked a bunch of awesome videos from Adoptees in the description, and I hope that you'll check them out. It's great to hear it directly from the source. Far more impactful than from my face, but thank you for being here, and thank you for starting. Okay. Not the chronological. Mouth working is good. Okay. Be mindful of your language. We taught. No. All right, number 9. So we want to make sure that we are too manic. Okay, I'm getting hot. All right. 21 minutes. It's supposed to be a quick one. Okay, I want to take this off. No, I don't want to say that. How are we starting? No, we'll just cut. We'll cut that somewhere. All right, cutting that somewhere. Okay, till next time.